So I have this thing in my neck. According to my physical therapist, back when I had a physical therapist, I have this weak muscle somewhere in here. Probably because I look just slightly down, way more than my prehistoric ancestors did. And all of the other muscles have to compensate for that one little weak muscle. And they get tired, and they get stressed, and they get annoyed. And at the best, what that results in is this weird crackly shoulder thing. If I put a mic up to this and kind of did a shoulder roll, you'd hear it like a cement mixer, all of those muscles pulling and moving in weird ways. At worst, there's a little pinchy headache right behind my ear, and then a tension headache that starts here and goes all the way around and down the back of my head and through my neck and into my shoulder. And at the very, very worst, it feels like there's a hand on the back of my skull just pulling down, like it's trying to snap my head clean off. It can be absolutely debilitating, but most of the time it's okay. And according to my physical therapist and my nurse practitioner, I have a choice. My physical therapist said, there's a bunch of exercises that I can do. I can stretch and move and do yoga. I can do these weird little neck sit-ups to help strengthen that muscle. And according to my nurse practitioner, I can take that dual action Advil stuff. So I take the dual action Advil stuff. And I live with it. The occasional small headaches and the less occasional giant debilitating headaches are just parts of life. They're just part of how the world is. And we all have those things, right? Those things that are just part of life, just how the world is. It might be the headaches or some other ache. Our legs might not work as well as they used to. Our knees might get a little more tired. It might be the way that our significant other chews, or the way that our coworker plays the worst music in the world all the time. It might be racism or misogyny or homophobia or transphobia or poverty or homelessness or violence or war or pollution or global warming or whatever. It's just how things are. It's just the way that the world is. Our psalm today starts with a phrase that gets misused. The fool says in their heart, there is no God. And the reason that I say that that's a phrase that gets misused is because this is not a psalm about the existence of God. It does not say, the fool says in their heart, there is no God, and then move on to the ontological argument. It moves on to how people are mistreating other people. How no one is doing good, no one is doing the stuff that they are supposed to do, nobody is treating people how they ought to be treating people, and in fact, people are doing evil. People are doing the things they're not supposed to do. People are mistreating other people. And we all do that a little bit. When the psalmist says, the fool says in their heart, there is no God, what the psalmist is saying is that it's much easier to do that stuff when you hold that you will never be held responsible for any of it. It's just the way the world is. It's just how things are. There's no God. There's no justice. There's no accountability. There's no anything. So I can just get on with my life of doing the things I shouldn't be doing and mistreating people, not loving others, not caring for others, not being merciful, not being human. It's all fine. It's all okay. Because when the fool says there's no God, they're saying there's no comeuppance. At no point will I stand before anyone and have to explain myself. There's actually a worse thing we can do than say that there's no God. I want to be really clear about that. There's this thing that we can do that changes who God is, so that God conforms to the things that we say the world is. We are good. And by we, I mean people, at taking justice and reshaping it. We can say that it is justice, that there is criminal law for the poor and civil law for the rich, that some crimes are just about what they cost to commit, that we can take people and put them in prison cells. We can put them in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day, or for all but 1 hour a week. We can do that for their entire lives. We can do that for their entire lives, and then on the off chance that they get to leave, we can make them pay for the time that they were in there. We can charge them for what we do to them because they're criminals. And that right there is what justice looks like. That's how it is. That's the way that the world is. That's justice. We can take charity and stretch it out until it is thinner than thin. We can tell someone, I know that you are hungry, but if you want a morsel of bread, show me that you will work for it. Even if that is an incredibly demeaning job, just show me that you'll do it, and then we will feed you. You want a house? You don't want to sleep outside in January in Iowa? Show me that you can work for it. Show me that you deserve it. Show me that you can earn it, and then you'll get it. Well, some of it. You'll have to do the rest, and you'll have to show me that you are continuing to try to do the rest, and for every bit more that you make, we will take a little bit more away, so that there will be a cliff that you have to look out for. And there will be forms and home visits and all of the stuff, and that is charity. That's the way that the world is. We can take peace and squish it flat and throw it against the wall. We can pretend that peace is just the absence of conflict, the absence of open conflict, that if we're not hitting each other, it's peace. Or worse, that it's just an equilibrium of violence. If we're afraid enough of each other, if we know that we can hit each other, that's peace. We can take love and pervert it. There's a saying that I hear every so often. There's a saying that I see written down every so often. It floats around. There is no hate like Christian love. We can take love and turn it into something that nobody can stand, that everybody can see is not love, And we can say that's the way that the world is. That's God's law. God is love. Here are the footnotes. Here's the fine print. It might not look like love, but it is. I have to tell myself that because I'm doing it to you. We can take all of these things and make them terrible. And I know that seems like a weird thing to say during Advent. It's kind of weird that this sermon series on sin, on the brokenness of the world, is bleeding into Advent. But as we prepare for Christmas, it is important that we recognize that there is nothing that is not broken. That for all we think we're getting it right and we're doing our best and that's just the way the world is, it's still broken. Justice is broken. Charity is broken. Peace is broken. Love is broken. Everything is cracked, and those cracks go throughout the world. And that's a hard thing to come to terms with. But here's the good news about what is coming. One of the most powerful claims of Christianity, and not just Christianity, but definitely one of the most powerful claims of Christianity, and something that I've said here before again and again and again, is that God is love. Not our idea of love, not the thing that we want to shape love into, but love, with no footnotes and no fine print. Love, with no footnotes and no fine print, is justice. Love with no footnotes and no fine print is charity. Love with no footnotes and no fine print is peace. Love with no footnotes and no fine print is hospitality. Love with no footnotes and no fine print is life. Love with no footnotes and no fine print is God. The promise of our faith is that what is coming is the reparation of all those cracks. It's the fixing of everything. And we might not even be able to recognize the world as God is making it. We will have to rethink justice. We will have to reimagine charity. We will have to rethink peace. We will have to reimagine love. We will have to redo everything from the ground up, filling in the cracks, making all things new, repairing an entire world. And that is not easy work. That is not light work. That is not a simple thing to do. But it is the only thing that will save us from the prisons that we don't know that we're in, from the work that we don't realize that we're doing just to survive, from the battles we don't know we're fighting, from the hatred we don't know we suffer from. It is perhaps the only thing that will bring us out of all of that and into a reign of love in which we can truly live and in which we can truly be human. And I don't want to jump too far ahead. I know that next week is the children's Christmas program, and then it's Christmas Eve. But before it's Christmas Eve, it's the fourth Sunday of Advent, when we talk about love. And when we start to move into the ways that God is repairing the world. The ways that we can become co-conspirators with God in repairing the world. The ways that we can live into our humanity, into our lives, into our love, and repair the world. The ways that we can make all things new. The ways that we can step into God's reign of love. So I implore you to come back Next week for the joy of a children's Christmas program, and the following week in the morning for the love that we get on the fourth Sunday of Advent, and that evening for the ways that we see God come into the world, so that we can continue this story. This story that in so many ways begins with love and goes through brokenness and returns to love. But for now, let me say this. The first step in addressing a problem is recognizing that you have the problem. And our problem is the cracks that go throughout the world. And the only way that we are going to get to wholeness is to fill in those cracks and reimagine everything.